It's thinking about the right medium for the right time and when to be scrappy and when to really need the polish. So like that blend of quality and quantity is something that's always very top of mind for me.
Welcome to the Entail AI podcast, where we go behind the scenes with top marketing leaders and innovators who are driving growth for their brands. In today's episode, we sit down with Eric Thum, head of marketing at BTS. Eric started his marketing career at Salesforce as a product marketer. He later went on to develop global campaigns for Salesforce before moving to his current role at BTS, a software platform developed for the commercial real estate industry. Join us as Eric discusses his expert insights into developing compelling brand narratives to drive growth.
I mean, in general, I want to speak about, about how you build compelling narratives as a marketer and the power in messaging and positioning in product marketing. I can tell you personally for myself, and I run the company. I mean, I'm the CEO at Entail, but product marketing is pretty much my passion as well. That's what I like to do. And in a way, just some background about us and about myself. I mean, this is my second company. The previous company we started as a ride-sharing app like a while back before Uber and all that. There were two main issues with that company. One is that there's no real money in ride-sharing. I mean, Uber isn't ride-sharing. I mean, more like carpooling. Uber, it's a smart move calling it ride-sharing, but it's basically taxi, a better form of taxi service, but that's a taxi service. So carpooling or ride-sharing, the first part is that there's no money in it, and that's a problem that kills businesses, right? The other problem was that, we needed to create critical mass of a lot of people at the same time, same place. Because if you like, let's compare ride sharing to Airbnb, for example, where you also need, it's also a marketplace where you need critical mass. Airbnb, if you do a new listing, if you publish your house on Airbnb, it can stay there for a year, for 10 years. Ride sharing, the ride is relevant for like a slot of 10 minutes. You really need to have a lot of inventory. We found ourselves working a lot on marketing automation and really product marketing. We couldn't do paid marketing because there's no money in it. And we really needed to do like a lot of innovation in like where it came to marketing, how to automate that. And we ended up doing marketing with developers. We worked with a team of developers, just building marketing tools. And at some point, we realized, and I didn't know it, it was my first company. I didn't have any position in high tech or anything like that before. I didn't realize that other companies don't really build their own marketing tech. So we said, okay, maybe the right way to go is to build marketing technology and sell it to other companies. And that's how Entail came to be. So in a way, the entire company is product marketing. We productize marketing, and that's what we're selling to other companies. Yeah. So that's basically what I like to do. And that's what I do most of the time now with our team. We're about 50 people now. We just recently started working on our own marketing. In the beginning, it was like really building that for other companies. And we became much more interested now also in branding. I mean, until now, it was just, mostly performance, what you can measure and all that. I mean, that's what I like to start with. Like the first question is really the importance of branding in B2B marketing, because and also in B2C, but especially in B2B, because you can have that like almost like cynical approach of let's just do SDR or just outreach. Let's send messages to people, get them on calls, and close them. And you see, even large companies, I mean, companies I've spoken to a few companies recently, raised, tens of millions of dollars, and they have a lot of customers. They're really selling pretty well. But the website and their online presence is almost nothing. But it seems like it's just so much more difficult if you don't have a strong brand. So maybe you can speak a little bit about that.
Sure. Yeah. I'm a huge believer in brand. I think brand pays off significantly for the business, but it's a bit of a longer tail, especially if you're starting from zero. I think brand in B2B SaaS is interesting. So, B2B SaaS is such a crowded space, and there are different segments like marketing automation or content development or platform encryption. But within each of these sectors, it is so crowded. Objectively, most companies sound the same. Every time I fly into SFO in San Francisco and I am in an Uber to the city, I'm passing by all these billboards of every tech. They all say the exact same thing, right? B2B SaaS is interesting from a branding component because most things are beige, I think, and very few companies objectively stand out. And I think this is so important to me, having seen the impact of this from my time at Salesforce. And so remember when Salesforce was started, they were the first real SaaS platform. They were trying to get people to trust moving all of their data and their information into the cloud when everybody had on-premise servers. And they went out with cartoon characters, and they leaned into this trailhead theme over time. And they have cartoon characters in their pitch deck. You have people in fuzzy costumes at their conferences. Like, for a B2B SaaS company, that is so crazy, but it works, right? So I think it's a great example and really taught me how the brand can matter. And so since I've been to VTS, we've taken the brand in a few different directions. We've tried to make it much more bold, a bit more elusive, sleek, but also approachable. And we develop brand guidelines and also brand characteristics to try to personify the brand in different ways. And so we're preparing for a new campaign or a conference. We think about it. Do we want to be bold and smart? Do we want to be approachable? Like, what is our emotional energy we want to bring to this specific activation? My favorite example literally launched 2 weeks ago. We launched a campaign called Kill the Key Card for one of our software products, which is aimed at tenant experience. So people that go into office buildings that typically you're using a key card, just swipe at the turnstile, just swipe at the elevator, tap it at the office. Now you can use an app. And we went out with this pretty bold theme around Die Hard. And it's making people understand they're probably tired of using key cards, but in a way that's bold, aggressive, creative, and different. And I think the responses we've gotten are incredible. Our top of funnel metrics are knocking it out of the park on this one campaign. I was literally looking at them this morning before the call. And I think it's a good example. And I think too many B2B SaaS companies forget about brand, or they think it's a fluffy nice to have. They think it's let's just make a pretty website. But when you actually have brand guidelines and a cohesive brand strategy and tactics, and you apply as much rigor to it as you would to demand generation or to product development, the impact is very strong.
So I think what I encounter often, and that maybe also has been the issue for me, is that branding is very difficult to measure. Marketers mostly prefer to focus. I mean, marketers and business leaders, management, they prefer to focus on measurable things where you have where you have ROI in sight. Where like, okay, it's gonna take me a month, 2, 3, 4. I can see the return. I can measure it. And with branding, it's just so difficult to measure. So, and when it's difficult to measure and to prove the impact, it's also more difficult to get budgets, right? So I think that's one of the challenges. But yeah. So how do you overcome that?
I think there are metrics that matter. So thinking about brand awareness, aided and unaided, are really important. I think it also depends on your business. But I believe in general, when you're looking at, you only have so many dollars in your budget, whether you're a huge company or a nimble startup, you have a set budget, right? And so if you want to try something new, I like starting small, doing some experimentation, some kind of testing of brand concepts and seeing what performs better. We see that when we go to market with a campaign that is highly branded, very well designed, not only does it look better, but we get more click-throughs. We get more people filling out a demo request form. We get more people going to other parts of our website to continue their journey. And so how do you measure the effectiveness of the creative energy you're instilling into it, or out-of-home campaigns, or, experiential pop-ups? It is hard, but I think if you do it in small pockets that are measurable and you kind of scale up and see what works, you eventually get to a place where there is consensus that brand matters. And you look at companies like Interbrand, where they rank the brand equity dollar value of the world's most powerful brands. They're very, very significant valuations. And so I think a little bit is a leap of faith, but
how do they do that? So how do they measure that?
I think they're looking at the way that companies assign value to their brand. They're looking at their marketing campaign effectiveness. I mean, it's very easy to measure the ROI of a campaign, right? And as the head of marketing, this is a campaign that, we really injected a lot of brand effort and dollars into, with the out-of-home ads, with the connected experiences, versus this is going to be more kind of a white paper or email format, et cetera. You can tell. And it's easy in our, kind of analytics platform to be able to tag campaigns as different styles, or just to understand what we're going out with. Like, I know this Kill the Key Card campaign we're running now, it's probably one of the bigger brand activations we've had, and we're already hitting some of the benchmarks we wouldn't normally see for a few more weeks. So it's things like that I think when you look at it in totality, you have to decide, are you going to believe in the brand or not?
I mean, I think it was a Neil Patel video recently where he shows, I sent it to a friend, I can look it up. I don't remember the exact numbers, but he spoke about, I think the number was crazy, maybe even close to 90% of all the sales online come from brands. I mean, from branded searches. If you check, Search Console or websites, and you see, often if you don't have a lot of content, then the number one driver of traffic would be branded searches. And how many branded searches you get, that's really an indication of how strong your brand is, right? If you have a strong brand, many people search for it. And nothing converts better than branded searches because, I mean, think for yourself, right? If you search for a brand, it's probably because you're interested in it. I mean, you don't search for Nike shoes if you want to buy Adidas. You search for them because you want to buy them. So it converts really well, which is, I think, one of the best metrics to measure in terms of brand.
Yeah, I mean, we look at for our web traffic, where is it coming from? And we call it direct, right? The direct, i.e. someone going to Google to search for BTS or typing in bts.com. Ever since we really reinvigorated and rebuilt our brand, both those metrics have gone up tremendously.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm seeing it also more and more for ourselves, like how much all this, like the exposure and also the branding. Because if you just get exposure without any brand, so meaning without your brand identity, and you just look like everyone else.
Yeah, and you want it to be cohesive too, right? Like you want your website to carry through to your ads, to your email, and also make sense in regard to what your product offerings are.
So I'm really wondering, what companies can really invest in brand? I mean, if you're a drop shipping company that doesn't really have a unique value proposition, just selling basically Chinese products to American, then I mean, I guess it's not a good move to invest in brand. You just do paid ads, but drop shipping is dying anyway. Um, so only companies that plan to be like build a significant company, stay for the long haul, only they should invest in brand, or what do you think is like?
I think every company should be considering what their brand is, right? And the dollars you invest are, should be a function of your revenue, your growth potential, your sales pipeline, et cetera. But every company should think about what your brand is, what you stand for as a business. It's connected to the products you're building and selling. It extends to how you hire people, what your employer brand is, like what is it like for people to actually work at the company. It's any community partnerships you have with other organizations. I mean, I think every company should be thinking about their brand. I wouldn't say every company should be doing, billboards next to a major international airport, but every company should have a perspective on who are we as a business and what is our vision, what are our values, what do we stand for? And that's what the brand is. A brand is just a codification and I think visualization of who you are at the core. So I would argue, one person trying to go out into the gig economy and become a freelance, consultant should have a brand for who they are. Why would you hire that person over another? But like I said, they're certainly not buying a Super Bowl ad.
Yeah. So definitely when you need differentiation, like I say, where the market's saturated, because I mean, if you're the only one, if you're in the middle of the desert and you're selling water, and you're the only one there, then probably it doesn't really matter which brand it is. You can bring it in a nylon bag, people will still get it. But if you're in a saturated market where most of the companies today are, because it's easier and easier to build products, whether it's software or physical products. And so there's much more competition. So you really need to stand out. And then okay, so you say that branding is like kind of like expressing who you are as a company at the core, right? But how important is also like the story of the brand? Like, should it really tell a story, or it's just like, because it's not just about the logo and the colors, right?
No, yeah, it's the story. I mean, the story is, I think, a concise way of saying who you are and why you're there, right? So, for us, what we realized over time is VTS was building new products. We acquired a few other companies, and suddenly our use cases and portfolio, went from really one or two products and one or two verticals to 4 or 5 products and 4 or 5 verticals. And so your kind of business model complexity, if you will, is going up. And so what we realized was we were still going to market talking about this feature, that industry, that persona, but we weren't really unifying it. And so, we went out with this kind of corporate narrative that tied the disparate products together, but unlocking the real potential of real estate. And, whether you're a broker, whether you're a tenant, whether you're an owner, whether you're office, multifamily, whether you're industrial, that speaks to you because, all these people are looking at their buildings as investments. Their brokers are working off of commission. They care about their tenant retention. So yeah, you want to unlock the maximum potential you can. It's suddenly more interesting than we have a great leasing activity report that you could see in this dashboard, and you can toggle some filters, you can configure it, you can get no, right? So I think you want to have that kind of top line corporate message, and then trickling down the different services and products you offer and how they relate. But brand is certainly not just a color palette. It's a color palette, it's a logo, but it's a message, it's an ethos, it's a personality. And I think the best brands do a very, very thoughtful job of tying these different components together.
Yeah, it is. I think probably more than any other field of marketing, I think this is really an art to really get this thing right. It's quite challenging because it's like having every different part of marketing like play together and like in perfect sync. Like you want to have the same narrative, like you say, the same visuals. It should feel like one identity. So it's quite challenging.
Yeah, it's not going to work every time, but I think it's important. And something we do is, several times a year, we regroup as a full marketing team and we look at our corporate positioning and see what changes we have to make. There are also macroeconomic factors. The competitive landscape is changing. And so the message should shift a little bit, but you don't want to deviate too far from where you are because then you confuse the market. So I think it's really important, but what that looks like is going to depend on each business.
So what types of marketing or what marketing activities or channels, do you focus on at VTS?
I think we have a pretty mature marketing operation, I will say. Our primary demand gen tactics are through email and paid social targeting. Not, we didn't invent them, but they work very effectively for us. We've been getting more creative with how to kind of cluster different targeted cohorts through social. We're starting to think about, paid streaming ads. So when you go to watch a YouTube video, there's always that little clip that you just want to get through to watch your video, but it's a great place to have a captive audience. We've been doing a bit more with direct mail and some interesting, more creative expressions through, our top accounts where we might be running an ABM or account-based marketing play. Sending them a branded experience in the mail is important for us. Events are our number one driver of pipeline. So we have a very strong event program across our owned event, which is VTS Accelerate. It's a conference we do every year. We go to conferences and trade shows. We have a field event program where we're hosting our executives in different cities around the country, around the world. I'm trying to think what else. I'm sure my demand gen team would say, you're forgetting about such and such. But we're moving across all different channels. Video is a big shift we've made over the last few years. So video has been hugely successful for us with things like customer videos. We used to do a lot more blogs and emails. Now we're actually doing a video interview, or kind of like this, a video podcast. We've also been experimenting with kind of short, snappy videos. So we have a really, really fun one that's going to be coming out in May. It's about 18, 20 seconds long, and it's so good and so punchy and hits all the right points. So we're trying to play with different mediums and different formats to stay relevant and stay interesting to our buyers.
Scaling your content marketing and SEO efforts can be difficult. If you're looking for a partner to help you succeed, Entail AI has the right tools to help you achieve your marketing goals. Find out more at the link in our bio or go to entail.ai to check out our range of solutions.
That's very interesting. I especially like the video part because, like you say, you build different channels and you're using, events is a big driver, like you say. We're not doing events yet. It's not really in my DNA so much. I need to build a team for that. I like online. That's like product marketing, but it's definitely, I'm quite sure it's a very good channel for us. But we're about content. The entire company is about content and what we're seeing, and what we're also predicting. First of all, we're seeing that there's a huge demand for video, or like all different types and formats. I saw this, it was one of the Google online events when they spoke about ads and so on, about video, and they showed stats that video demand, I mean, for short, medium, long, on your phone, on your computer, on TVs, like all different devices and types and variations of videos. There's like an increase in demand for all of them. Um, and and the funny thing is that I mean, most companies are still focused on creating written content. And when it comes to video content, they do mostly, if they do any, I mean, most of them don't do much, but if they do any, it's like long form YouTubes. That's where you see companies mostly. But the thing is that really, I mean, in every industry now, you see that that most of the attention of the industry if you divide like content into verticals according to topic and so on, you see most of the attention is on either search or social media. I mean, search still takes a huge percentage of online traffic, and then social media and all the different platforms from TikTok to YouTube and LinkedIn. Um, and you see that most of the attention there goes, or most of the views are taken by influencers, by individuals who can create great content. It's not like just TV anymore, right? Like, so it's been democratized, and now everyone can go and either through a podcast or through videos. It's a lot of influencers, and then that's basically where companies are a bit behind, because it's quite challenging for them. Because I mean, so that's why I like to hear from you. I'm just gonna like tell you from my experience, and I'm very curious to see how you solve it. Um, I say that the challenge for companies to do videos is that they need the expertise. I mean, so unlike paid, where you compete with other companies like doing paid ads, when it comes to video and when you do organic, like just publish on post your videos on social media or search, then you're competing with influencers, right? And then the type of videos that you need to create in order to be competitive are authentic videos created by individuals. It's not like this agency, like, perfectly edited, very expensive videos. You want to also increase velocity to be able to publish like influencers. So how do you overcome that VDS?
Yeah, it's true. It's tricky. And I think so VTS is an interesting place where commercial real estate is an industry that suffers from a lot of FOMO. And commercial real estate, the CEOs, the heads of leasing and asset management, they care so much about what the company next to them is doing more than any other industry I've observed. And so what we found to be impactful is really leaning into the customer storytelling and getting these executives, in the news talking about us, or on video with us, or sometimes in blogs, sometimes at events. But these people want to hear what their peers are doing. And because we're in a lucky position where we have most of the leading owners, operators on VTS's platform, so we call them a lot of favors. And we ask them to sit down and talk to us about, what value they're seeing from our products, what they're most excited about, also what they're seeing in the industry, because some of these individuals themselves have their own brands and they are a draw for our target buyer. So the phrase influencers may be a stretch, but within the commercial real estate world, a lot of these people are influencers. And so, having them using our products and using them well, and then asking them to talk about it, they're usually very excited to do so. And so we have our annual conference, Accelerate, we go through the exercise of, who do we want to put on stage? Which customers do we want? And the conversations that flow are fantastic. And there are so many good nuggets from them because they are people who they want to hear from, right? And I don't think a lot in commercial real estate, I don't think they care about the tech providers as much as they care about what value am I getting? What is this going to do for me? Is it going to make my business more profitable? Is it going to make me move faster? That's not so uncommon, but what is a little uncommon is the most important thing is, what is that guy using? And are they being more successful than I am because of that product they have? So we've leaned pretty hard into this. I don't quite call it influencer, but I guess within the CRE ecosystem, it is a bit of influencer marketing, because
It is. It really depends on the market, right? If these people have a personal brand and followers, it's always relative to the market. It's not like beauty or fashion, right? It's not B2C. It's not that large. So you're not gonna get millions of views for every video, but in some industries, even if you get like 500, that's significant, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's interesting. So you're like crowdsourcing, so to speak, like the videos from your customer.
Yeah, I mean, like we work with our sales teams, our customer success teams to say, we want to film a video about a customer who is using access control integrations for VTS Activate really well. Come up with a few ideas for customers who would work for that. And they say, well, it could be, this account and this account, or it could be this individual here. And then we think about what buildings are they operating out of, which buildings we want to capture on film. And so we have a thoughtful approach that is bringing together sales, marketing, and CS to really think through who is the best person to talk about this problem. But sometimes it's just, we want to highlight this person. Let's figure out what we want to talk about. So it works both ways.
And in terms of velocity, I mean speed, because you did also mention speed, like for your customers that they want to move fast and so on. And I see that's often I think a very important principle or value or whatever you want to call it, like in marketing. And I see that especially in B2B companies, where compared to B2C, they're moving much slower when it comes to marketing. They're more sensitive. I don't know if I can really say that they're more sensitive for their brand, but they're slower from the nature of the B2B company is slower than a B2C often. And so it's also it's like also in terms of like content velocity, like how often, how quickly can you put content out? I mean, do you publish every day, every week, every month? So how do you solve that? How many videos or how many content pieces are you managed to put out?
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly putting out something every week. Usually we're putting out a few things a week. I think what's important is, different types of marketing activity require different levels of involvement and work and, hours and budget. And so, we try to be relevant every week through a combination of social posts, email, blog, etc. Videos are obviously a little bit less frequent than that. But what we're doing is we're trying to run a few large strategic campaigns at any given time, and each campaign will have multiple touch points. We've also been lucky to, work with some really good partners and production agencies and so on. And, we were working with one for a while that produced very, very high quality work, but it took a long time. And it was almost too much polish for what we actually needed. And we've been able to work with another agency, which the work is just as good and moves a lot faster and is a bit cheaper. So we're able to produce more, for the same amount of money. Both are great, but have different use cases. One, we needed a legit product commercial that 2 to 3 minutes long. We need it to be perfect, every frame to be flawless, versus sitting down with, a favorite customer of ours. We want a nice video. It doesn't need 3 months of post-production work. And so I think it's also a matter of finding the right partner for the right type of content versus always going back to the same well. And then just being scrapped. We had one video, someone on my team literally filmed on an iPhone of someone else on the team walking into the building, tapping their phone at the door, walking in. And we used it for social. We posted on Instagram. We had it in some emails. That's different than what we would put, in a keynote at our conference. It's thinking about the right medium for the right time and when to be scrappy and when to really need the polish. So like that blend of quality and quantity is something that's always very top of mind for me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, but the interesting or the cool thing now is that really those scrappy videos, like you say, like somebody takes out their iPhone and films somebody else using the product, even in your office. And this something, and I mean, this type of video that probably costs you almost nothing, can outperform any video that you're like spending, I don't know how much on,
It can. I mean, this 20-second one I referenced earlier, which will go out in May, we had an agency do it, but it was a few hours of shooting, a few hours of post-production, maybe 1 or 2 rounds back and forth. It's great. I'm so proud of this video. And, I think it's a good example of it's not one or the other. Sometimes, you're kind of in the middle where it is going to be very high quality. It is going to be produced externally, but it's quick, it's scrappy, it's snappy as well, and serves its purpose. So I think some marketing teams tend to think of, they're chasing perfection, which sometimes is the enemy of good. And sometimes you're editing something or you're going through feedback and we're taking it from good to good. It's just a different good. That's not a good use of time, right? If you're going to spend an extra hour to go from 90 to 91, don't do it. Take the extra hour and produce a different 90. And I think in B2B businesses, it really depends on the executive, but I've seen, different stakeholders, both, previous companies and where I am now as well, have different views on that. Some would say, I'd rather spend the 10 extra hours to go from 90 to 100. Others would say, absolutely not. Get it to 90 and go do 10 more things. So I don't think one is right versus wrong, which is what is right for the specific piece of collateral you're working on and being upfront about that.
Video aside, what do you think are because we spoke a lot about video, and I mean, I'm actually very curious in that, but in general, like in terms of B2B SaaS growth, now 24, everybody's talking about AI and so on, but what do you think are the most lessons that you've learned in terms of growth for B2B companies, marketing growth?
It's a good question. I think the need to be agile is more important than ever. I think we're sitting on the precipice of many inflection points. I think this recent boom, like you mentioned in AI, I don't think anybody really knows what's going to happen with it. It's not going anywhere. I don't think it's a fad, but I do think we're going to see a ton of consolidation in that sector, right? You're not going to have hundreds, if not thousands of, like Series A AI startups. They're going to eventually consolidate. So I think it's going to work its way into every single business one way or another. I need to be agile to support that. We also, I think macroeconomic factors are really confusing right now. Are we in a recession? Are we not in a recession? You have multiple wars breaking out on multiple continents. I mean, there's a lot of ambiguity, and I think, interest rates, et cetera, things are just at this funky, I don't know.
Everything is in motion. There's nothing, there's no anchor, nothing you can really hold on to. Like everything's changing.
Right, for sure. And so when you think about B2B SaaS and, the purchasing environment is very much affected by these things. And so, for commercial real estate, interest rates matter a lot. And the ability of owners to make investments like a software platform when interest rates are super high is a little bit tricky. Or you think about the ESG space. Similarly, like I think especially in the US, a lot of companies have punted taking on environmental sustainability, et cetera, initiatives because they may be viewed as nice to have. I think Europe's a little bit ahead of the curve on us with this, but when with the high interest rates, those software companies are going to struggle a little bit more. So I think the name of the game is agility and being able to pivot, but also capitalize on the opportunities that are in front of you. And they might be surprises. So I think, looking ahead, you're going to see, I think what'll separate the really great companies from the mediocre companies are the ones that were able to pivot, were able to kind of seize the opportunity, a little carpe diem out there. But thinking about, how do you make a move in this environment where everyone's kind of watching what they're doing? I think those investments are being questioned very heavily. Budgets are scrutinized, but then you also really want to growth, want to get back to growth. So how do you keep those things at the same time? So it's tricky. It's a weird time. It's not like post 2008. It's not a .com boost. It's this very
definitely something new.
Yeah.
I mean, I can tell you about Entail. I mean, my company that I think it's exactly what you're describing. I can't agree more because I mean, for ourselves, I mean, we're about content. We're about helping companies. We basically have three parts of the business. One is like our CMS that really helps streamline content creation velocity to help companies also solve all the SEO issues and really grow traffic. Another part is to help companies with solving like all the video challenges that we just discussed. And the last part is like helping companies convert the traffic into sales. And I mean, the basis of the business, where we started from was really about the content piece of things, and then ChatGPT came and I said like, so how is this going to affect us? And well, everybody's being like really worried about like, or really wanted to get into the benefits of creating content with AI. I wasn't worried about that at all. I actually we went the exact opposite direction because I mean, I said, what I mostly care about is how it's going to affect search and how it's going to affect social media, because that's where the traffic is.
Yeah.
And that's where the attention is, and marketing is about the attention. And if you have a formula of getting that, your piece of the pie in terms of attention, like you say, like you're not in B2C or in B2B, your market is more narrow, but you can get your attention there, and that's great. But so how is it going to affect who's going to get the attention? And I was more worried about how Google's going to change. And so what we did is and as a principle for the company, I mean, because a lot of the traffic comes from Google, what we said is, okay, we need to predict where Google is going to be in 6 months or in a year, because what we've realized that things are changing very quickly also for that monolith that's Google, right? It's changing very fast for them, but they're a monolith. They're a huge company. Every change that they want to make requires, I know, like 1,000 developers. So it takes time. So if you realize the changes that Google needs to make now, you know that these changes, these algorithm updates, this is how their changes, take effect. The algorithm updates can take easily 6 to 12 months for Google to really make. So we decided let's prepare today to be there before Google makes the changes. So let's predict what changes Google is going to make, and let's be there faster. And that it really affected the DNA of our company. We decided, we have our software, but we also have a managed service. And what we've realized is that if we use that managed service, with managed service, because it's people, you can make changes much quicker than with software, okay? Because you don't need to build anything. And then we reasoned that, Google will not be able to index all that like influx, like this hyperinflation of content. So we need to shift more to like expert content. And we think still now, we're pretty sure that Google will also have to index more and more video content, because that's what people want. When you search for things, you can't just rely on blue links and text. So there's like more and more video. So we shifted entirely to expert content creation. No more writers, just creating content with experts in every industry. Focus more with like AI on identifying what topics we need to create content for, where the money is at in terms of what content you can create that will eventually drive sales, and also how to be able to create videos at scale. So it's really like how to survive in that, exactly like you put it, like this like very, very agile environment, right?
Yeah.
It's been very interesting. I see we're out of time. I don't want to keep you. I know it's like you still have an entire day ahead of you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Entail AI podcast. Join us next time for another masterclass when we sit down with a marketing luminary to reveal their path to success.